2, 1, and we're live. So, welcome back to the LexiConvention VBlog by LexiConvention's founder. I guess I do get to call myself that. I'm gonna stop. I started the year with doing this vlog on a daily basis because I post on my subreddit on a daily basis. So I thought a vlog that does the same thing would be the right way to go, but looking at the current views on the YouTube, that's not the way to go. So let's go through what was posted, and then we'll continue to the field trips I have planned for LexiConvention. And these field trips will be more successful if less people come than I actually predict might come. The popularity of my subreddit is around 100 to 300 to sometimes 500 viewers a day, around 50 to 100 uniques a day. It is a subreddit that people seemingly always find and fall into, possibly through my username, possibly because people are sharing it. Not quite sure. I don't know exactly what makes those numbers. I could do some more research on my own on viewership and stuff. See what's posted that peaks all these views, but usually it's art. When I start posting my own artworks, my drawings, my digital art, my paintings, that's when the people come in droves. And the other part is when I post poetry. So, yeah. I'm not even on the subreddit yet. Let's go to Reddit. I use new Reddit. Now let's go to adult dyslexia. And I didn't make a video in since the 7th. So that's 3 days back. So I need to scroll down here. Man, you know what? Even when I don't take any drugs, drink no alcohol, I even forget myself what the hell I posted. So, I left off with the Dua Lipa song Homesick. And then 3 years ago, I posted a research link called Meet Vermeer, who's a Spanish painter, very famous. Wait, is he Spanish or is he Dutch? Maybe I'm confusing him with Velasquez. Velasquez is the Spanish one. And this is this awesome art gallery post by Google. I actually, this is the first time I'm encountering it, I think, the Google Arts and Culture page. And it's amazing. They curate this with museums. And it starts off really nicely. Who was Johannes Vermeer? And then it shows his artworks and has editorial features of why Vermeer matters today, 12 things you didn't know about Vermeer. His painting, Girl with a Pearl Earring, is called The Mona Lisa of the North. But that's actually, I have a problem with that title because the Mona Lisa is Da Vinci's self-portrait that he converted into the painting of a woman. We have done x-rays about Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. We just use an x-ray machine, set it to really unsensitive spectrums, especially because it's an oil painting, so all you want to see is like a little bit behind the oils. Oils aren't thick. But there was always fear to do these things to oil paintings because you might damage the color, the oil. And they did that with the Mona Lisa, and they found out, wait, there's a drawing of a dude here, and it's like his other self-portraits, his self-pencil drawings. So calling a girl with a pearl earring the Mona Lisa of the North is not correct. The girl with a pearl earring supposedly really did exist. You can read more about it here. And it's these beautiful articles all about Vermeer, collectively written by multiple people. This one, the one that goes into detail about what's so special about Vermeer's girl with the pearl earring, is by Tracy Chevalier in English. And this is just lovely. You get to zoom into the painting, see all the details, all the cracks, a little bit of reflection. Vermeer was a master of small reflections. He became very famous. You get to see things inspired. And this whole arts and culture page of Google is genius. It's just beautiful. You can spend a lot of time here going on a journey, going from one artist to the other, and it takes you on this trip because of their similarities. For example, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the pearls amongst painters. You click on this, and it takes you to other painters who also would draw pearls, but none to the reflective accuracy as Vermeer. Some of these other paintings are also very badly kept, so they lost their colors because I actually don't know exactly the dulling process of oil paint. I never worked with oil paint myself. It was always too expensive for me. So I was fine with acrylics, and I learned how to work with acrylics, but I'm far out of practice with acrylics. But in university, I had to do it. I made a beautiful homage to Jackson Pollock that then got stolen. And that depressed me. It was a painting I gifted my brother, and then the girlfriend of his roommate, when they broke up, she just took it with her. After that, I posted Tim Tebow's Journey from Dyslexia to Published Author. Actually, I posted 2 of these since my last VBlog from authors with dyslexia. And this is a nice article about a football player who was a sophomore quarterback in the University of Florida, which is the same university Jeff Bezos started in before he got a scholarship for Princeton. I studied a little bit about Jeff Bezos today. The richest man in the world actually doesn't come from the richest family, and it's actually quite... and it's just this nice, small little article about how you shouldn't give up, and then a small little editorial about the disability. He wrote a book, this quarterback, Tim, Shaken, Discovering Your True Identity in the Midst of Life's Storms is the title of his book. And in the interview, he says, as a kid, I never thought I'd be able to write a book. I'm so thankful for my mom and every teacher I had that instilled me with confidence that I could overcome dyslexia. They also helped me realize that just because I learned differently doesn't mean I'm not intelligent, which is the message every dyslexic teacher would want to hear from his students. So this is a nice little article. It might encourage someone out there. Then this got sent to me by a friend of mine on Facebook who lives in the US. He saw this video about Dr. Jordan Peterson. I'm not sure what he's a doctor of. Let's learn that before we continue. There he is, exactly. So he's a psychologist, first and foremost, from 3 Canadian universities. And he wrote a couple books, one of them being 12 Rules of Life. Anyway, in this YouTube video, it seems he actually made his thesis about alcoholism. So he's not exactly a source for learning disability information, but in this video I posted, he goes into his personal observations from people with ADHD. And you may or may not know this, but ADHD and dyslexia are usually parallel disorders, and they misdiagnose each other all the time. Sometimes you have both. I had both. In my later life, like after age 22, 23, I got my ADHD in check. It wasn't such a problem anymore for me. I like grew out of it. But I definitely had it as a youth. And then I started living on my own, and then it started to disappear, its symptoms. My ways of teaching myself started to improve. So I don't have like the worst case for ADHD. But I do have the argument, and I tried to make this before online, and nobody replied. Was that dyslexia also needs to be like ADHD in definition, because dyslexia for most people is a children's disorder. It's not even a disorder, it's a learning difference. And ADHD actually stands for adult attention deficit disorder, ADHD. They just added the word adult in front of it. And dyslexia deserves the exact same recognition in neurology and psychology. It completely does. This would help so much in the spectrum of letting people know how dyslexia is also a condition that adults suffer with. And then add on top of that how technology has changed, and now instant communication is the most popular form of communication, which means if you have a reading and writing difference or slight handicap, you are going to be set back. You can't type as well and as clearly as people without dyslexia. You can overcome it, of course, but the fact that your brain is since birth more prone to perceptual errors means you will probably read the text people sent you wrong, or you will write something you didn't mean to write, or you will misspell words, and people can lose respect for you in that situation. Like imagine your boss texts you and he asks you a complicated thing, and you can't go to your computer and use that assistant software, and your boss wants the answer in 5 minutes. He needs it. So you're typing on your cell phone, you make errors, your boss might fire you in a month because he's like what the hell? I have this retarded guy in my office? That's really what happens. It's sad, but it happens. So he went on and he pointed out something which was a little eye-opening for me. He said, disabilities are multiplying. And he said, this shouldn't surprise us because diseases in the medical world, they also multiply. Every year we discover new little types of diseases. We find people with different kind of variances of medical differences and history and so on and so forth. It only makes sense that learning differences, you'd also be able to discover more and more differences in them. And you will probably discover many more differences in people's personality. As the world changes, personality can change too. And it'll just, it goes like this. This is why the medical industry exists and continues to do research. It's because they didn't discover everything that can be wrong with a person yet. Because new things show up all the time. So that's multiplying. And he goes on to explain in this video, it's from someone asking him the question, what do you recommend for me with ADHD? I'm so sure this guy also has dyslexia, but he didn't mention that part. And he says, like, universities are doing it wrong. Professors themselves would talk to students and hear from them how they're learning and adapt. That's the way it used to be. But he's complaining that universities nowadays, they're putting everybody into a category, giving them more time for exams, more time for essays, and looking away. If they're not giving more time, they're giving assistance software, which makes your mind lazier. Or personally, it might make you study lazier. Like, oh, I don't have to learn how to spell these words for these exams because I'm going to have the laptop there while everybody else doesn't. That happens. You're more prone to be allowed to use a laptop if you're categorized in university as a learning handicapped student. And I actually did that in my university, but I never got any benefits from that. It was also an art school, and not one benefit. The only benefit I had is there was this nice little office dedicated to where I could get study help. And I never used it. So maybe I'm also to blame for that. And I went to university in Canada. Then I posted another art link, this time from the BBC. And the BBC is great. I love the BBC as a company. They do such amazing work. They even have a Reddit share button. This is the first news organization that I see took the time to put a Reddit share button on their webpage. So this article is called 8 Odd Details Hidden in Masterpiece. And I wanted to post this so that people can think a little more about the artworks that people post and how to interpret them, and how artists on purpose or through happy accident or subliminally put hidden things in paintings, photographs, sculptures, you name it. It's all, if it's art, it's there. Movies do this in a very sophisticated way. Some movies are made with everything in the frame having meaning. And so the whole frame is hidden details. And the thing with movies is they're moving pictures, they're time-based media. So you spend time watching this, and depending on your own life, you're going to interpret different things from what people say, different details in the frame, and all these things. So movies do this even to a higher degree if you care about. But this goes on. It talks about, for example, Sandro Botticelli's, the Italian painter, The Birth of Venus. This is a Renaissance painting from 1480. And they point out the hidden details talks about the golden spiral being hidden inside the painting. Many mathematical little spirals are all hidden in the waves, in her hair, how she's surrounded. Everybody in this painting is completely barefoot. And yeah, this is a very artsy link. but it still might get you to think. Like Edvard Munch, the famous painter from Norway, for his scream, ah! Like the Macaulay Culkin scream before Macaulay Culkin. Here they talk about how his painting was, what do they say? It has hidden details that tribute Thomas Edison in this painting. And they go on to continue and tell you how and they tell you how it's about the electric totem of Thomas Edison and the cranium of Thomas Edison that might have inspired the face. So this is a nice article. Not really for everybody, though. It's actually very highbrow, artsy. Then I posted a poem, an old one, called Get Back. I don't think I even read it when I posted this. I sometimes don't. Then I posted a poem I really like that I also had on the blog next to my own poetry by Attila Youssef. I don't even know who this is. Might be a woman poet. No, Attila is a man. He's a Hungarian poet from 1905. He lived a really short life. He died at age 32. So this is his poem called I Really Love You. And he says the love he has is something he inherited it. Let us carefully save our true souls like the best suit of clothes to keep them spotless in the days of celebration. So there's lots of feminism in this poem, talking about clean clothes being important, like the relationship. It's just an incredible, beautiful love poem. And it's titled I Love You. And you know what? This is much better than my own poetry. I have phases and maybe very few works that I might be able to argue is similar in quality, that do similar things. But actually, because I'm I'm a son of a nuclear physicist, I rather put science in my poems, write about moons and stars, and then mention that they have gravitational force inside the poem too. Talk about the technicality of photography in a poem and all these things. That's more me. Then I wrote a song, Get Lucky. Not a song, a poem. Yeah. Maybe I wrote this during the time when the song Get Lucky came out in 2012. I don't know, maybe. So I like to steal certain lines from songs sometimes and make whole poems out of stealing one line I like in a song. Breaking each other. So this is a poem I wrote about my stalker before she became a major stalker. This was more like she was just, always talking about me before she literally started hiring people to stalk me and stuff. So this poem is called Breaking Each Other. Then I wrote a couple more poems, and I wrote Victim of What Monsters Do. And it starts with, I wish my life wasn't my life. Yeah, my dark phases. This is what I actually wanted to talk about. So yesterday was my birthday. All I want for my birthday is a big booty hoe. And I didn't get my big booty hoe. And this is barely poetry. It's more like paragraphs thinking of the future. And I wrote this in 2013. So I wrote this 6 years ago. And this was 1 year of being together with my girlfriend from Uruguay, and she was my fiance. Like about 4 or 5 months of knowing each other, we said we could work, we could get married. This was 1 year since my ex, you know her up there. 1 year since she was pregnant. So I guess when this poem was written, my children were half a year old. And I didn't know at the time. I thought I didn't have children at the time. Either way, I wrote when I'm 30, I thought I'd be married. I thought I'd have a more important job. These 6 years did not go how I thought they would. I had so many setbacks, mental health issues from the stalking, a bit of a drug addiction problem with marijuana. And yeah, so I did not reach the goals I wanted to reach. If I still end up getting married to my ex-fiance, she's also the only woman who actually wished me happy birthday, the only woman I had a relationship with that said happy birthday to me on my birthday. She's also the only woman who always responds and replies to my writing. And she's pregnant now. She's going to give birth soon. She's about 7 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant now with another guy's kid, not mine. And the guy doesn't want anything to do with the child. She was very close to having an abortion. I actually told her she should have an abortion, and she didn't. Her family were very against it. All her sisters, her mothers, and yeah, so she's giving birth, but she comes from a big family. She works as a professor, and she's going to be fine. But she did not want to get pregnant. It's another accident pregnancy, kind of like my children. And I told her about it. I told her, like, I also have children I didn't want, and it is what it is. She'll probably get to raise her children, though, unlike me. Here I wrote, this I put under poetry, but actually it might actually be more of a research link. And it says people learn when they vent. At least some people do. Not everybody, of course. But through the process of venting, you are being emotionally intelligent. And I go in this short writing about how hate is a passive thing, and you do overcome it. This is a repost, a poem called "Could You Be Convinced?" Fall in love, get hurt, never fall in love again. Another old poem. Don't ask me why. This is the last poem I posted. Or not, I'm not sure. Gotta keep scrolling. And it's a poem that starts off with the sentence, I could ask myself why so many times that I would reach the point where I ask, why was I born? You know? And it's basically saying, if you question everything that happens to you in your life, you're like always constantly whining, always constantly being a Waluigi, complaining, whining, like, why is God so mean to me? Why is this happening to me? You eventually will reach a point where it's like, why was I born? And the answer is very simple. You were born by chance. The genetics that made you in the womb of your mother, they are a random equation. They are random every single time. The thing that made you, you, is the most random thing on earth. So there's no answer to why you were born. I guess you could say because my parents had sex without protection, but even that, your parents could have sex without protection. Your mother could have a miscarriage, an abortion. You could have been born with genetic deficiencies. Who knows? And if you weren't, well, that's why you were born. Then I posted the song Numb by Linkin Park, and this singer committed suicide. So it's a little depressing, but it's a good song. Then I wrote new poetry, and it's called "I Guess They Took My Invisible Crown." And here I go on about how I'm probably losing respect in certain higher circles because of what I'm writing and what I'm acting, and I'm not being as intelligent as I was at the start of the subreddit. I'll probably win them back, though. The people who know me, they'll come back. They usually do. This is more relaxing for me that I get to pause from being observed and found by certain people all over the world. This gives me pause. Then I wrote a very sacrilegious thing as a Catholic. God probably is going to punish me for writing this. And I also started it with blasphemy incoming. And it's a whole argument and poem about how Satan is more of a son of God than Jesus. But what happened, and this is the Catholic faith, is Jesus became the Messiah. He made himself the Messiah. Jesus is God because he became God through what he did and what he said and his good actions. And that's why we all learn from God, from Jesus, in a way we can't learn from God. You know, this was God in human form, is what we say. Some people not misinterpret, I can't say that. Some people interpret the Bible completely different. I call the Bible poetry. And they say he was brought to earth from God himself to be human God, and he is divine, and Saint Mary is divine, and she is without sin. She never lied. And she is a saint. I believe she's a saint, but the whole thing that she never lied, unlikely. You need to understand that back then, Mary was a 12-year-old, and she was married, and you could have gone to be assassinated. Not assassinated. You could be murdered for adultery back then. Some husbands requested that their wives be murdered because otherwise they couldn't remarry. So that's what happened. Joseph was like the world's first stepdad. And then I found this thing on my Tumblr. This is something posted by my followers recently. And it's about cold hearts. And it's a poem by Navya Sebian. And I don't know who he is. And it seems it comes from a book of his called Fuckology. I have a feeling when you title your book Fuckology, you don't have higher education. Doesn't mean he's not smart, but we'll see. Maybe I'll research him another day. Now's no time. Then someone surprised me. They made a post, observation and questions, and they describe smart devices being good but not ideal. And I gave my comments. He's an Android user. I'm an iPhone user, so I couldn't really help him out. Then I posted my favorite live music channel for when I just need to zone out. This is a very nice therapeutic live channel where people comment and stuff, and it has this nice little animation that might inspire you to study yourself and do homework, because it's just an animation of a nice girl doing her homework, listening to music with a cat and the city in the background. And it's called Lo-Fi Hip Hop Radio. It's also very jazzy. It's like a jazz, hip hop, funk. Then I posted, I actually wanted to post this nearer to when I posted the song by Linkin Park. This is Numb by XXXTentacion, the artist who got killed in a car accident. He got shot in the United States. And he has a history of violence. And the song, I really enjoy his music. Not every single song. Some songs are even too crazy for me. But many of his songs are very beautiful and very unexpected. Very, very subverted. They have sounds from many, many mediums. But he himself, he was a black goth, which is also a rarity. He found more connection in the goth community. He made music videos he directed himself about being welcomed by the goth community and not being alone because of them. And that's cool. Then I found this image from another subreddit called Cool Guides. And this is an image called The 4 Relationship Killers and How to Challenge Them. And it goes on about things you will face in a relationship eventually and how to best fight it. Some of these things I knew naturally. Some of these things I learned through relationships. Some of these things I didn't know or never knew them put so simply. And now here we go to dyslexia research. So Time magazine, time.com, why dyslexia is more than a reading disorder. So it's this whole article written by Alice Park, published 2 years ago in December. And it's not a long article. It's very short. And it's about helping educators understand dyslexia better, helping people who don't know about dyslexia understand it better. And that's just what I got. Then I found this other article from the BBC talking about the popularity of certain people, what makes trends, what makes a trendsetter. And I'll tell you what, dyslexia will probably make you a trendsetter if you fall into the popular gallery and if you're also a very confident person. I remember many trends I started in middle school, high school. For example, in middle school, I started feeling like I'm older than my years, and I wanted to express that. So I learned to tie a tie in middle school, and I started wearing different ties to school. And some of my friends told me, "Hey, can you bring me? Can I have a tie from your locker?" I would leave them in my locker, different color ties. And other people started bringing their dad's ties, and then they would ask me to teach them how to make a tie knot. This was even before the time of YouTube. I learned through images on the internet, just images. And it took lots of tries, but then I learned it, and now it's almost muscle memory. Even though I don't practice it anymore, I'm pretty sure I can still do it in like the second or third try. It's very easy. All you need to learn is the Windsor knot, the advanced Windsor knot. I recommend trying that one because it's really elegant. And then there's the simplistic Windsor knot. And now here's an article from the New York Times titled "A Simple Way to Better Remember Things is Draw a Picture." And they go into depth. This is an article from January 6th about how doctors have discovered. This is a bit of a longer article. How many doctors discovered that in a study published this year, the article is from Jan 6, so was this also published in January? No, it was published actually written in 2017, peer-reviewed January 20th, and published online in October last year. So it's not from this year. Maybe I read something wrong. It also has very little views, only 355 views. This article about how drawing improves your memory. I'm gonna bookmark this because I'm gonna try and invite these two authors of this article to LexiConvention. Just send them an invite when everything is more planned. So I'm gonna bookmark this. Considering they only have 400 views, I'm pretty sure they'd love to be recorded to discussing their issues in a convention, which will probably even have 350 people. That's insane. So few views on the actual article. You can't see the views of the New York Times version, but yeah. So we're almost done. And I found another, similar to what I posted earlier, another guy who couldn't read and write at age 18, ended up writing a book. This is an African-American man, unlike the football quarterback. So his book is called Dr. Dyslexia, Dude. And it has this really ugly Photoshop of a superhero flying through a path of written pages. And he wrote it with another man. So his name is Inshira Robinson. And they're selling a book. And it seems this guy got a doctorate. And it's about how proud and happy he is that he got a mentor called Dr. Nash. And Dr. Nash diagnosed him with dyslexia in his last year of high school. It's called the senior year. So this might inspire you. This link has a video with an interview about him.
Tonight we're
a 3-minute video. So he got to be on national television. Then I found this other link on a website called Horizon, spelled Hrzone. And it's about a woman with the British Dyslexia Association. And it gives you multiple steps about how you can improve your struggles with dyslexia. This is more for younger people, not exactly adults, because it talks about also diagnosis and finding a mentor, which are very important tools. I've had many mentors in my life. The people I respect, I usually I learn as much as I can from them, because if I respect you, I better learn from you. But the nicest thing here, I think, is number 4. She writes about is adapt your communication style. In order to ensure any employer thrives in a workplace, then you need to communicate with them in the right way, and the same goes for employees with dyslexia. It's worthwhile asking your team members the preferred method of communication. Remember, everybody works differently. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't entirely about children, because she's talking about the workplace. Actually, she's being very general, both women and adults, but not with the children, women, men, and adults. So yeah, there's that. And actually, I went 1 day, 2 days barely without posting. And the last thing I posted before making this vlog was the song La Bamba, because he talks about he's a captain. He's not just a sailor. No soy marinero, soy capitán, soy capitán, soy capitán. Ba la bamba. It's a really fun song. I'm sure you've heard it before, maybe in a Latino restaurant. So that's for today. This live stream already went 45 minutes. Me and my tangents. Just to finish off in these last 5 minutes, in LexiConvention, we're going to do field trips. So the field trips I have planned is for everybody who's interested in music. We're going to go to the musical museum in the center of Vienna, where they have original writings of Mozart. They have the life stories of many Austrian composers, many European composers from the times of the Renaissance and before the Renaissance. They give you examples of multiple instruments. They show you the future of music. It is this wonderful, both technical museum as well as gallery of musical arts and history of musicians, and it's really great. If we go as a group, we'll get a big discount. You'll be there with other people. We might do the tour guide, or maybe I'll do the tour guide. I don't know. Hopefully I won't do the tour guide. Next, we're going to the Technical Museum of Vienna, which is all about engineering, mathematics, robotics, steam engines, you name it. If it was made by an engineer, it was there. And most interesting there is they have examples of the very first elevators invented, which were invented by an Austrian. And you can see it for yourself. And they talk about like the challenges they face, how unsafe the early elevator was, how necessary it was, and how they came to the problems and all those things. They talk about the invention. Beautiful thing about this museum is it's very large. It's in a very big old palace. They have. It's great for educating young people. My father took me when I was a little boy, multiple times actually. They give you first-hand examples of the engineering they describe, so you can see with your own eyes and sometimes even physically touch certain engineering wonders, and that's the best way to learn. So I'm very sure many people will like that. The other field trip, we're going to go to a park and just play sports and have a picnic. LexiConvention might be 3 days or 5 days. I'm not sure. It all depends. We are going to go to the Belvedere Museum, which is my favorite art gallery of beautiful paintings. All the art is classical in there. It is so nice. You can see the original Klimts. We're probably also going to go to the Leopold Museum. And they have a bit of a rotating gallery, but they also have a very fixed gallery about Schiele, who's an illustrator and was a student of Klimt. And they have the original letters of Klimt there. In the Belvedere, though, that's where they have what they claim is the original painting of The Kiss, which is Klimt's most famous painting, using original gold, transparent canvas. It's an impressive artwork, one that inspired lots of love everywhere. On another field trip, we're going to go to one of the oldest cafes in Vienna, and we're going to sit there. And this I need to reserve in a long time in advance. And this cafe is famous because Sigmund Freud went there, Carl Gustav Jung, Albert Einstein, Adolf Hitler used to also drink coffee there. Basically, anybody famous who ever worked in Vienna would go there for his meetings. And I actually had a nice long conversation with a manager from there, the original manager who used to work there as a buffer. And he actually met Hitler. He met Sigmund Freud, and he told me this wonderful thing about Sigmund Freud, because he saw I was also going there by myself sometimes. He told me Sigmund Freud would call his time in that cafe alone his island. He said, "This is my island. This is where I have my peace. Sigmund Freud. He even told me the table that Sigmund Freud would always request, and he recommended I sit there. It was really sweet of him. I hope he's still alive, but he's of course not there every day. He's an old man, and he's not the main manager anymore, but much of the staff there is traditional staff. I went with a date there once, an American girl, and she complained like for half an hour because service was taking so long. And service took 45 minutes before they came to us because they are that traditional and they are not a tourist attraction. This is a cafe for original Austrians. People who understand that the Austrians take their time when serving people, that these waitresses are not young, they are carrying heavy things, everything is in pristine condition. This is original porcelain you are drinking your coffee from. It's really cool. Where else are we going on a field trip? The Art History Museum, where we will see lots and lots of Greek sculpture, Egyptian paintings, Egyptian coffins. The Greek sculptures are my favorite part. They are so incredible. All the Greek art. And it's so much. There's more Greek art there than anything else. There's many nice other modern statues, modern paintings. But it is about art history. So it really, like, you start the gallery, if you go the right way, which is definitely the way we're going to go, is you start with the Egyptians. Then you move on to the Greeks. And you move on to Babylonians. And it's this journey through art history. And my plan is, probably for next week, I'm going to take cell phone video, or maybe I might have a camera for even better footage of these places. I'm going to make a nice promotional video for LexiConvention. I'm also going to show where the convention is going to be. And I'm going to try to finish this by the end of next week. So the goal is to have a video for LexiConvention by Friday next week. And I will probably be able to manage that. So wish me luck. This has been a very long vlog. Sorry for the tangents. I don't really know what to do about the vlog yet. I still need to make a thumbnail, though. Considering I'm a graphic designer, I don't even make thumbnails for my own fucking vlog. Is quite the embarrassment. But these things don't really matter in the long run. This is more for his history, that someone can go back and see all these vlogs, see my process as a dyslexic myself. I very much believe in documenting the dyslexic process. Because there's no better way to inform people. This is basically science. This is video documentation of dyslexia live. So that's me for now. Goodbye. Have a good day. Again, I thought I was gonna light this cigarette in my own stream, but I never do. When I get to talking, and this was 50 minutes, that's 50 minutes I didn't smoke a cigarette, even though I felt like smoking one. Not bad, not bad. Having someone to talk to, even though it's a webcam, even helps my smoking habit. Oh, and I need to meet my friend in 20 minutes, so I gotta get going soon. Cheers.